Hello and welcome to another episode of Throttle Stop Garage. This episode we are going to have a look at getting some rust repair done. No one likes doing rust repair. Never heard anybody ever say that they enjoy this sort of work. And this is what I found. I was just about to get the floor part welded in, as you saw in episode 31. So this is episode 32. And as I was looking at it, the closed panels that go on the side of the bulkhead, they're usually rotten on these cars. This is as I got it. I drove this car for almost a decade before I pulled it all apart. And it was in remarkably good shape. I was really quite happy with the shape it was in. Until I started looking at it the other day. I wasn't going to do anything about this. I know it's an issue, but I thought, well, these are the panels that they're all coming together, right? They all stick together, kind of origamied in the one spot. So we need to have a look at this problem. No time like the present. Why weld the other floor panel in when I know I've got to cut the piece that joins it right off? So let's go have a look. And we'll see how we get along with that. So we'll see what we consider bad here at Throttle Stop Garage. All right, so if any of my viewers are in the United Kingdom, I want you to turn away because you will laugh far too hard at what we would consider rust here in my part of the world. I don't live in Ontario, which is really quite different. So this is the rust that I've got. It's mostly surface rust here surrounding this area that goes up to the A-pillar. And is the closing panel to the footwell. Just got the part that I'm about to weld in. You can actually see it, it's right here. So it's going to just about weld into this part right here. Now this is a place where back in the day, in their infinite wisdom, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 panels joining within a few square inches. None of them have any seam sealer on the outside. It's just spot welds. These panels, if we go inside the car, so that's the back end of this area right in here, all seam sealered, you know, looking good. But then you can see up here at the top, I got a big pucker here. The sheet metal's popped right off. That can't be good. Kind of rust colored a little bit. That's not great. So back around here, and we have a really good look at it. And we can just see it's kind of half full of goo and nastiness. And this is all rusted in here. I mean, it's just surface rust. It's not through or anything. This is another one of these little blisters where it's just got nothing but rust in behind it, right? You can just see it dumping out on the floor. Anyways, it's scruffy at best. Down the panel, of course, it gets worse. Water and things slosh up. Parts of the fender drain down this way. And it's just all running along the edges and sides here. And it's just a little too ugly for my taste. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the bottom. And then I'm just going to take a line all the way up the side, right to the top. And just cut it all off. Replace it with brand new sheet metal so we know where we're starting from, and we'll get some rust protection put back in. Of course, this will all get seam sealed and epoxy primed by the time we're done. For those of you that are actually doing these kinds of projects, if you've not ever used one of these spot weld drills, they are magic. The drill actually clamps the piece of sheet metal, it feeds the drill in, you don't have to push it. Yeah, they're expensive, but if you were ever wondering
If you should buy one and you can afford it, the answer is yes. Do buy one of these things. I hate cutting out spot welds, and this makes the process so much easier. That and that air chisel. Once they're through, I got that on like the lowest setting ever because I wanted to preserve this strip for you to have a look at, and it came off really nicely. So I didn't actually end up needing to do this work. It was just a lot of wasted time, as you'll find out in a minute. But anyways, just a good sales pitch for that particular tool. Well, you can see here I've got a little rust patch there on the A pillar, and it was just a little too deep for my liking. When I popped it off, there was a spot weld in there. I didn't even really see it. It's just part of that the hinge piece, so real quick patch going in. Really no point in not doing that properly and just getting all of the rusty metal off that particular part of the car rather than trying to fix it up in any other way. Just cut it all out, weld it all up, and you're in and out of there in 10 minutes and you're done.
All right, now that we've got these parts cut off, let's just do a little bit of analysis on what exactly happened here. Again, when we had all of this together, this is to the inside of the car here, right? This was the outer side of the car, this faced the outside. And I thought that the area between the seams was looking a little bit rusty to me, and I was right. It's always good to have your fears acknowledged. So again, inside panel, outside panel. Anyways, there's lots of panels in here, but as we go along and we have a look, I mean, all through this area it's got a lot of surface rust, but in some areas we're rusted right through. Again, probably could have got away with it. Now, I've been thinking about it, and I think what happens here, just for other folk who actually own the car, that's the top of the panel. It's among the most corroded parts of the entire piece, right? So it's corroded at the top. Then as we exit the car, actually, this is the same panel, but this is outside in the wheel well. This is inside in the cabin, basically, right? So I figure what's going on is the various holes. Just have a look here. So holes like up here where the wires all go through, holes like right here where the hood release cable goes through. I think water gets in, right, and runs along those and comes out the cowl. I also think that windshields that leak, right, they come down. I know this happened in this car. The water pools in here because that was rusted right through. The cowl was rusted right through. And then eventually drains somehow. So it makes its way out through that panel. And then collects actually on the inside of the car in that corner of the footwell. It doesn't come to the outside of the car, so it's not ingress of moisture from the wheel this way that's rusting this out. I mean, I do have rust down here because of that problem, but that's not what's going on in that panel seam. And Volvo only sealed it from the inside. They never sealed it from the outside. And I just, we'll do a better job of the windshield, I guess, when we put it all together. Just thought it was interesting. So I made a decision that you will have seen in the other footage, right on the fly. This panel, I was hoping to just sort of leave it in place again. This is the flange that's up against the hinge post, the A pillar. Okay, so that's that flange right there. And as I was working it on the inside, and I had another look at the outside, it's pretty gnarly. Like, I don't know if I can get you that looks at it a little bit better. I didn't want that on the car. So I made a decision again. That's why I unpinned it, right? I drilled out all the spot welds on both sides because I was going to just, not worry about it. And then as I looked at it, I went, nah, none of that's really worth saving. Let's just chuck it all. So I hacked it all out. Anyway, and then I found the little rust spot here, which again, a lot of people would probably not worry too much about. The depth of the pits is the issue. Like, you can see the backside actually pretty good shape. One little spot weld there that had rusted almost all the way. I didn't have to drill it out. It just popped right off. It's interesting the rust is focused on that spot. The pits are just really deep there, so why not chop it out? It takes about 15 minutes to do the repair. Here's the repair now. So there's the repair done. So what I'm going to do, because again, obviously not terribly concerned with originality, and I don't imagine anyone's ever going to look inside a fender, for heaven's sake. Instead of making this out of flanged panels upon flanged panels, what I'm going to do is bridge this gap with one panel. And what I'm going to do first is stitch the two panels that make up the post together. So we'll stitch those together on the way down, then grind it off. And then I'll come in and make a closing panel that goes from here to here. So we'll get that made up, and then I'll weld that seam from top to bottom. It's just, it's like seam welding your car as you go. Always a good idea. Anyways, and then I'll, of course, butt weld it to this flange that I just plasma cut out. Part of this, again, when I do I'll do a tubular front end on this car, actually, is what the plan is. So this will be the mount area for the tube part here. Oh, I could really focus that in. It's pretty grotty up there anyway. I replaced these inner fenders years and years, like a decade ago. So they need done. They're actually fine, like they're not rusty or anything. I'm just going to pull them off. But I'll fix that panel here, the top of the A-pillar, and then I'll fix the cowl a little bit more elegantly than I did the first time. And then you can see just down at the bottom that I have a wee bit of rust there. It's really not, it's mostly surface. But I'm going to change out the inner sill on this car. So I'm not particularly worried about doing that right now. You can see into this corner here. Look how clean that is. So the corner's fine. Nothing wrong there. This outer edge is yucky. So we'll fix all that up when I get around to doing that part of the bodywork. All right, enough talking. Time to get to work.
So with most of that repair done, I'm now welding those two panels that would make up the A-pillar, just welding them together. So I hope that's actually going to be a little bit stronger than it would have been originally. So that's there's good clean metal there. It was really easy to weld it up. So I'm just grinding it all back and then getting ready to make a pattern here. So this is the paper template. We're gonna lay that out really quickly here on the sheet metal. This is actually in real time. I didn't even cut this, cut the footage anyways. It just takes a second. The giant Beverly Shear knockoff piece here. Boy, that thing is good. This works great. So there it is. Just give a little hammer and dolly work there to add the little detail-y pieces in that no one will notice, but I like that they're there. Anyways, there's the part, initial fitment going in. I like the way that's looking, so it should fit up nicely. Now we'll get the, this is the closing panel. I just wanted to weld it from the inside and from the outside. What the heck, might as well. So just welding it up there, a little bit of trippy sideways action for you with the GoPro glued to the car. And there we are on the other side. It's a good idea to get your wire brush out and the air out, make sure things are staying cool as you're welding it up. But you can see it didn't take very long, and that part was welded inside and out. A little bit of grinding and finished up real nice. Okay, there you can see we are all finished ground up in here. The floor part now can go in. So that's going to be next up. I'm just going to whip around and show you the other side so you can have a look. Real happy with the way this turned out. Again, you can see, and I replaced it somewhere in here. Right, all down that seam. Looking real good. Seamed it up against the A-pillar. Again, perfectly happy with the way that all turned out. So it looks clean on the inside, but it's really pitted here on the outside. So I think we're going to replace that. But when I go to replace it, my thought on this side is I might just come in and fold and take it all the way out in one piece. So maybe even make it a little bit easier. So I don't know if I'll do that right now because I haven't made up my mind. But doesn't prevent me from getting the floor done on the other side, so let's get to work. Okay, so I'd cut the corner of that part off to fit it in, and then I had to weld the corner back on it before I went ahead. It's just the panels were just sort of, because the A-pillar is in a little bit from the rest of it, I needed to add that back in just for places for seam seal and other things to go. So I kind of laughed at myself when I put that together, but there it is, all finished up. Now we got the paints drying, we got the holes punched. We're getting set now. We're back in the car here, rattling around. The funny part is, frame goes up, frame goes down as we're getting this done. So I had a little spot there where the plasma cutter got away from me, so I had to quickly weld that back and make that nice. These are all the details you don't see in any of the other stuff. But once again, work hard at getting the fit of the panels right. It makes the welding go so much better. As you'll see here, I'm dropping the frame up and down because the panel fit isn't really great there, so I have to take the grinder out and get that to where I want it, and then it doesn't tend to move, it doesn't tend to buckle, or bad things don't tend to happen. So I need longer arms to get to get some of this stuff ground up. Even as I'm fitting it in there, you can see the panels moved a bit, so I had to touch up the seam as I went to make sure I had the fitment that I wanted. Same deal up here, your feet go. That's now all touched up in place properly. Okay, this is a wrap for this episode as I'm cutting out the last of the firewall there for the foot pedal. So thanks for looking in. Please like and subscribe. Looking forward to carrying on with the project here as we go. Do appreciate the comments. Here I'm just doing the final plug welds as I'm getting off out. New episodes coming up right away. I've been working hard on the car, so lots of new content.